Do you know that the money you desire is not somewhere far from you, waiting to be earned with strain and sweat, but right now exists in a realm where effort is irrelevant? There is a vibration, a living state of being, that draws wealth to you as effortlessly as the sun draws the flower upward to bloom. This is not about labor, nor is it about chasing. It is about tuning yourself in consciousness to the frequency where money naturally flows. Most people believe wealth is a matter of action alone. They toil, they worry, they beg life to open its doors, all the while holding the vibration of lack. But the law of life is unchanging. You attract not what you want, but what you are conscious of being. When your inner state is one of already having, when your mind is saturated with the feeling of abundance, the outer world bends itself to mirror your inner conviction. This is the vibration that pulls wealth without resistance, without exhaustion, without effort. The truth is, your imagination is the magnet, your assumption is the current, and your feeling is the charge. When you enter the state of already possessing the riches you seek, the world cannot help but give it to you, for it has no choice but to reflect the vibration you radiate. To hold the feeling of financial freedom is to walk in the vibration that calls money from unseen places, from unexpected sources, without the strain of chasing it. The question then is not how will it come, but who am I in consciousness right now? Change that inner identity to one who is wealthy, who lives in the ease and certainty of abundance, and money will arrive as naturally as breathing, without your struggle, without your pleading, but simply because you have become the vibration itself. Wealth is not something to be earned in the outer world first. It is not a prize handed to the few who work the hardest or suffer the longest. Wealth is a state of consciousness, and until you enter that state, the figures in your bank account will remain as they are. You cannot bring riches into a mind that dwells in poverty. You cannot invite abundance into a heart that clings to lack. You must first assume within yourself the state of being wealthy, and that assumption must be so natural, so real to you inwardly, that the outer world has no choice but to reflect it. Your outer circumstances are only a shadow, a mirror, a reflection of the inner conversation you hold with yourself. If you speak within of bills, debts, and insufficiency, the world will faithfully echo that vibration. If, on the other hand, you speak within of having, of overflowing supply, of ease and plenty, then money will find its way to you in the exact measure of that inner conviction. This is why wealth is a state and not a possession. Possessions can be lost or taken, but a state of consciousness cannot be removed from you unless you yourself abandon it. When you truly embody the state of abundance, it becomes the invisible atmosphere around you, and money gravitates to you in the same way metal is drawn to a magnet. The great mistake people make is believing that they must first acquire money before they can feel wealthy. They say, when I have more, I will think differently. But the law of life is reversed. You must think differently before you will have more. You must feel now the very thing you have been postponing until the future. When you shift your inner state, you shift the entire flow of your life. You may not see the physical results instantly, but the unseen currents begin to move the moment you assume the feeling of wealth. Doors open without knocking. Opportunities appear without searching. And channels of supply arise from directions you never planned. It is never about the size of your effort in the outer world. There are those who work endless hours and remain poor, and there are those who work little by the world's standards and yet live in ease. The difference lies not in action, but in the state of being from which that action flows. A man in the state of wealth may lift his hand once and set into motion events that bring him more than another could achieve in years of strain. The invisible always precedes the visible. The inner arrangement of your consciousness is the blueprint, and the world outside is simply the construction that follows. When you know wealth is a state, you stop chasing and start being. You stop measuring your worth by what your eyes can see and begin to measure it by what your spirit knows to be true. You no longer ask, "Will it come?" but you affirm, "It is mine now." That affirmation is not an empty phrase, but a living vibration felt in your whole being. You see yourself as the one who has already received, and in seeing it, you become it. The outer must then obey, for it has no will of its own apart from the state you occupy. This leads to the second truth, that imagination precedes reality. Everything you touch, spend, or save in the physical world began as an unseen image in someone's mind. The chair you sit on was once an idea. The currency you exchange was once only a concept. Even the home you live in existed first in the mind of its designer before it was ever laid in brick and stone. Nothing in your outer life can exist without first being imagined. When you understand this, you realize that wealth is not something to wait for, but something to conceive within yourself right now. Your imagination is the workshop of creation. It is the place where you can shape the exact scene of your life as you desire it to be. If you can imagine holding the check, if you can feel the crispness of the bills in your hand, if you can hear the numbers spoken as yours, then you have already begun the process of calling it into form. This is not daydreaming without purpose. This is a deliberate act of creation in consciousness. You imagine as though it were happening now, because in the realm of the unseen, it is happening now. The more real it becomes to you inwardly, the sooner it will solidify outwardly. Most people use imagination against themselves. They imagine unpaid bills, rejection, delays, and loss. And then they wonder why the outer world reflects such scenes. But the law is neutral. It simply gives form to whatever is impressed upon it. If your inner picture is one of constant shortage, shortage will walk through your door. If your inner picture is one of constant abundance. Abundance will come with equal certainty. This is why you must guard the images you allow to occupy your mind. The images you dwell on are the seeds of tomorrow's harvest. When you live with the awareness that imagination precedes reality, you begin to treat your inner world as the true reality. You close your eyes and rehearse the life you wish to live until it feels more natural than the one your senses now report. You walk in your mind through rooms filled with the evidence of your abundance. You open drawers lined with the bills you have already paid. You feel the ease of spending without strain, the joy of giving without fear. This inner movie becomes your dwelling place, and in time, the outer world must rise to meet it. Do not wait for proof before you believe. The belief is the proof. The moment you accept the inner scene as fact, the law begins to work. You may be tempted to check the outer world for signs, but resist that temptation. The seed does not sprout the instant it is planted, yet you know it will. The same is true here. Imagination plants the seed, feeling waters it, and faith allows it to grow without digging it up to see if it is working. If you hold to your inner scene, refusing to be swayed by appearances, you will see the bridge of incidents form before you. Money may come in ways you could never have reasoned, through channels you could never have predicted. That is the genius of the law. It is not your role to arrange the how, it is your role to embody the state. The law will always find a way, and the way will always match the end you have imagined. Imagination is not fantasy, it is the very fabric from which the world is woven. All wealth begins as a thought, and all poverty begins the same way. The difference lies in the pictures you persist in holding. Your mind is the treasury of all you will ever possess. If you would have more in the outer, you must first give yourself more in the inner. You must live richly in your thoughts before you can live richly in your home. This is the vibration that attracts money without effort. Because the effort is not in the outer grasping, but in the inner discipline to remain in the state you have chosen. When the world tells you that you must earn, prove, and struggle to be worthy of wealth, remember that every fortune, every empire, every account overflowing with supply was first an invisible image in the mind of its creator. They saw it before they held it. They lived in it before they walked through it. They claimed it inwardly long before anyone else could see a trace of it. You must do the same. To change your life, you must first change your vision. To change your bank account, you must first change the inner picture you accept as yours. Nothing is denied to the one who lives in the end of his desire. You can test this for yourself. Tonight, before you sleep, close your eyes and see yourself in possession of the wealth you seek. Do not see it as coming, but as here. Do not see it as far, but as now. Let every sense be engaged. Feel the joy, hear the sounds, smell the air of that place. Saturate your mind with the reality of it until it is more real than the room you lie in. Drift into sleep carrying that scene, as though it were the final moment of your day. The law will take that image and set in motion the events necessary to bring it to pass. This is the path of effortless wealth. It does not require you to know the next step in the outer. It requires you to know, beyond doubt, the final scene in the inner. Imagination creates the pattern, and the world must follow. If you will persist in that state, the day will come when you look around and see the very scene you once only saw with the eyes of the mind. And when that day comes, you will know that the vibration you carried within you was the only cause. And the money that now surrounds you was always yours from the moment you claimed it in consciousness. Feeling is the secret, for without feeling there is no creation. The mind may imagine 1,000 scenes. It may rehearse every possible detail of wealth. But if it is cold and lifeless, it will never take root in the unseen. Feeling is the life that animates your creation. It is the invisible current that charges your imagination with the power to call it into form. You must feel the reality of your desire as though it were already yours. You must let the sensation of abundance, the thrill of possession, the ease of having more than enough, flow through you until it is no longer an act of imagining, but an experience in the present moment. It is not the words you speak in your mind that move the world, but the feeling those words generate. You may affirm wealth all day, but if your heart is still heavy with doubt, you are impressing lack, not abundance. But the instant you allow yourself to sink into the naturalness of having, the law is set into motion. The world is forever reshaping itself according to the vibration you radiate. And feeling is the vibration. It is the signal you send to life, declaring what you are prepared to receive. Consider the way you respond when you remember a moment of joy. Your heart lifts, your breath changes, your body feels lighter. That change is not in the outer, it is a shift in your vibration. Now imagine deliberately creating that same shift for the thing you desire. Imagine holding the keys to your new home, counting the figures in your account, giving freely to another without hesitation. Let yourself feel the warmth of it, the security, the quiet confidence that comes when you know your supply is full. Do not make it a future hope. Make it a present fact. The present is the only place creation happens. Do not confuse mere excitement with the deeper feeling required. Excitement may come and go, but the feeling of already having, of quiet possession, remains steady. It is a calm certainty, a restful knowing that what you desire is as real now as it will be when your senses confirm it. This is the feeling that moves mountains, that bends reality to your assumption. When you cultivate this inner climate, money arrives without strain, for it is being drawn to the vibration you hold. To feel it is to claim it. Without that inner claim, the desire remains a shadow, unformed and unanchored. Many fail in this law because they keep their desires at a distance. they look at them as something to be attained, and so they remain unattained. But when you feel it now, you collapse the distance between desire and fulfillment. You live in the vibration of the end, and life must give you the evidence that matches that vibration. This is why living from the end is the key to manifestation. Living from the end means you take your attention away from the process of getting there and place it entirely on being there. You occupy the state of the wish, fulfilled, not as an exercise you do for a few moments, but as the state you dwell in throughout your day. You wake in it, you walk in it, you speak in it, you sleep in it. It becomes the natural point from which you see the world. When you live from the end, you no longer worry about how or when it will come. You no longer measure your progress by outer signs. You simply remain in the knowing that it is done. To the outer mind, this may seem foolish, but the law does not respond to logic. It responds to the state you occupy. The one who lives from the end is not concerned with convincing others, nor is he swayed by appearances that seem to contradict his assumption. He knows appearances are temporary, but the state is eternal. The outer world has no choice but to follow the inner pattern. If you persist in the feeling of already having what you desire, the world must rearrange itself to reflect that inner reality. This is not wishful thinking. It is the structure of creation. You are not waiting for something to happen in time. You are moving in consciousness to the place where it has already happened. And from that place, you view the present moment as the path by which it arrives. Living from the end means letting go of the need to check for results. You do not plant a seed and then dig it up every morning to see if it has begun to sprout. You trust the process, knowing the life is already in the seed. In the same way, when you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you trust that life has already answered. The unfolding may come through unexpected channels, but it will come, for the end is already secured. The great beauty of living from the end is that it frees you from the struggle and anxiety that so often accompany desire. You no longer chase, you no longer grasp, you no longer fear missing your chance. You rest in the knowing that what you have claimed in feeling is yours. This rest is not laziness. It is the most productive state you can enter, for it keeps you aligned with the vibration of your desire. When you make the end your dwelling place, your outer actions become inspired rather than forced. You are moved to do the things that naturally lead to your desire, often without realizing that you are being guided. You speak differently, carry yourself differently, and make choices that reflect your inner wealth. Others may see these changes and call them confidence, but you know they are simply the natural expression of the state you now occupy. This is the secret. The world outside is not the cause of your state, it is the effect. By changing the inner cause, you change the outer effect. Living from the end and feeling the wish fulfilled are not separate acts, but two sides of the same coin. The feeling makes the end real, and living from that end sustains the feeling. Together, they form the vibration that attracts without effort. For you are no longer trying to bring something to you. You are living as the one who already has it, and life cannot help but agree. Persist in the end until it becomes as natural to you as your own name. Let it be the atmosphere you breathe, the silent assumption you carry into every room. Let it color your thoughts, your words, your gestures. In time, the world will reflect it so perfectly that you will forget there was ever a time you did not live in this state. You will see that the wealth you now enjoy was always yours in consciousness, and that by feeling it and living from it, you called it forth into the visible world. Release the effort, for the strain of trying is the very proof that you have not yet accepted your desire as already yours. When you believe something to be true, you do not labor to make it so. You simply rest in the certainty of its existence. The anxious mind, constantly checking, measuring, and wondering when it will come, is not in the state of fulfillment, but in the state of longing. The state of longing can only call to itself more longing. To attract what you desire effortlessly, you must abandon the constant doing born of fear and step into the stillness of knowing. It is in this stillness that the vibration of your desire takes root and expands into the world without your conscious effort to make it happen. Life is not moved by the one who pushes the hardest, but by the one who trusts the most. Trust is not passive resignation, but active faith. It is a quiet and steady conviction that the unseen is more real than the seen, that the inner reality is the cause, and the outer must follow. When you release the struggle, you allow the natural flow of the law to work on your behalf. The moment you release the tight grip on how it must happen, the universe reveals ways you could never have planned. Effort that comes from fear blocks the very thing you seek. Action that comes from inner certainty flows with ease and draws to itself all that is needed. Many live under the illusion that without constant action, nothing will happen. They exhaust themselves in outward work, all while holding within a state of doubt and lack. This is why their results are so small compared to the energy they spend. Action has its place, but it is powerless if not born from the correct state of being. If you feel the need to force, to push, to make it happen by sheer will, it is because inwardly you have not yet accepted the end as done. The one who knows the outcome is secure, walks in a different manner, speaks in a different tone, and takes steps that feel effortless, because the end is already guaranteed in consciousness. You will notice that when you truly enter the feeling of the wish fulfilled, your actions become natural and unstrained. They are not driven by desperation, but by inspiration. Ideas will come to you unbidden. Paths will open before you without your manipulation. And you will be moved to act at the right time in the right way. This is the difference between forcing and allowing. Forcing comes from lack. Allowing comes from abundance. When you live in the vibration